Welcome to the All49ers Roundtable. This is our new time, Wednesday. I guess this is prime time. This is prime time. We just got promoted.
Prime time.
I'm Grant Cohn. That's Nick Newman. Our newest writer, Suneil Gaitonde. And to this side is Maverick Pallack. That's always really hard to do, but I did it very well right there, so I'm proud of myself. Let's get right into it. Most people expected the Jets to take Zach Wilson. But the thing about that is it hasn't been reported. And they took time out of their day, all those Jets people, Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, to go watch Justin Fields in person at his pro day on Wednesday. Why? If they change their minds, if they're just floored by what they saw from Justin Fields and take him, the Niners have their choice of Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and Trey Lance, and Kyle Pitts. What do you think they should do? Whoever wants to start is welcome to.
I can jump ahead and start on this one. And I'm going to rank my preferences, and my preferences are what I see what the 49ers should do in the events that Justin Fields goes second overall to the Jets. My preference, the first thing I would look to do is draft Trey Lance. And I like Trey Lance over Zach Wilson because I like his stature a lot more. Wilson's a little more polished coming out right now, but in the long term, over the next 10 years, because remember, the 49ers aren't drafting right now just for a rookie quarterback to play out his rookie deal for the next 5 years. You're trying to nail this pick to have your franchise quarterback of the next decade. And looking through this through a 10-year lens, I like Lance more than Wilson. So the first thing I would do is draft Lance. Wilson would be my second choice, and just gambling on the upside there. Third, I wouldn't mind seeing the 49ers trade down, do something similarly that they did in 2017 when they dropped down a spot when they drafted Solomon Thomas and the Bears jumped up for Trubisky, or what they did last year with Javon Kinlaw and Tristan Wirfs trading that pick and getting a few draft picks to drop down a slot or two. I wouldn't mind seeing that if Kyle Shanahan views Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, Trey Lance all the same. So you pick up draft capital, and I just don't like Mac Jones at 3. I think that's way too high for him. So those are 4 scenarios I would like to see the 49ers do ranked if Justin Fields is not available at 3. But Justin Fields is my preference at 3.
Yeah, I mean, Nick makes great points. For me, I really like Trey Lance, but I would go with Zach Wilson. And the reason for it is I think that Shanahan has to be thinking about who am I going to be able to win with consistently over the next 3 years, because that's what it's going to take for him to keep his job. So I think Zach Wilson is going to be the most pro ready, is going to be the most ready to start day one. And with Lance, I think that would only work if you're willing to keep Garoppolo around for another year, which I think Shanahan isn't too excited about. But, I would go with Wilson just because I think he's the most pro-ready. I think over the first 3 years, he'll probably be able to help the 49ers win more than Trey Lance would in his first 3 years. So that would be my pick.
If I'm not allowed to trade out of this spot.
You can do whatever you want to do, Maverick.
Well, I would just say if Justin Fields is at 2, I would probably go Zach Wilson at 3. But I would also look to trade back because who knows what Atlanta's doing? Who knows what they're willing to give up? I know Detroit is interested in a quarterback. Denver. If you can get those 2 first-round picks back that you just traded, wouldn't that be worth it? And I think they would consider that. And they could probably still get Mac Jones at 9, which if they are that enamored with Mac Jones, getting him at 9 is much better to his value, in my opinion. So if Justin Fields goes, who is my second favorite quarterback in this draft behind Trevor Lawrence, I would probably trade back.
That's really clever. No one expects Zach Wilson to drop to 3. Everyone expects him to go number 2. Right now, if you placed a bet in Vegas for Wilson to drop to 3, it's 26-1. So that would be a mind blower. And then all of a sudden the Niners could auction off that pick if they wanted to. I think what they would do is just run to the podium and take Zach Wilson. Whether they're right or not, I think they would do that. You could argue that Trey Lance is a better prospect, that Trey Lance has higher upside. I think they love Zach Wilson. I base it on nothing. Basically, I guess I base it on Chris Sims ranking him really high and Kyle Shanahan and him having matching tattoos. So that's the extent of the science behind my reasoning. What I would do, though, still, I don't believe – I don't have strong feelings on any of these quarterbacks after Trevor Lawrence. You can't tell me that any one of those 4 is definitely going to be better than Josh Rosen. And I'm not ready to give up on Josh Rosen. I feel like if you put a great team around Josh Rosen, he could do what Mac Jones did at Alabama. And to me, it seems like there's either Pitts or Sewell. Either guy looks like a lock all-pro. And if you put those guys on the Niners, I feel like Jimmy would do great. Rosen would do great. Nick Mullins, Nate Sudfeld. But I know I'm in the minority there. It's not going to happen. I think if Justin Fields goes to the Jets, it's probably going to be Zach Wilson. So we'll see.
Not Nate Sudfeld.
Pardon?
Not yet.
One point about trading back, I think the only issue I would feel if the Niners traded back, everybody knows they're trying to get quarterback. So I think it would give, unless it's only to 4, risking not being able to get one of the quarterbacks, I think is too high of a risk when you already traded, 2 first-round picks to be able to move up to get a quarterback. Like moving back to 9, I'd be afraid that somebody else is going to jump up and take one of those quarterbacks. And then you're really kind of scrambling for a quarterback this year.
All right, let's go to the next round. We've talked about Najee Harris a little bit the last few weeks. He says he's been in constant contact with the 49ers. Seems like a really good fit because the Niners are one of the teams in the league that commits to the run the most. I mean, they're really a run-first team, and he's a bell cow, and they don't have one. They've had a running back by committee since Kyle Shanahan got here. So it doesn't seem like Najee Harris is going to drop to 43, although he might. You never know. Is he the kind of player that you should trade up for? What do you think, Mav?
I would seriously consider trading up for Najee Harris, but I just don't see Kyle going that all in on a running back, in my opinion. I like Najee Harris. He's a Bay Area guy, so that's always cool to get guys in your hometown team, I guess. But I think Najee Harris is probably going to go before pick 28, which is, I think, the max what the 49ers could trade up to, unless they include a second-round pick next year as well. If they're just trading picks this year, then I think Najee Harris, I think, is going top 26, and I don't know if the Niners can get up into that area.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm captain of the Najee Harris to 49ers, bandwagon train. I think I might have actually started all this hoopla about it. I think he would be excellent, but Mav makes really good points. I don't think it's just feasible. I don't think he's dropping past maybe Pittsburgh at 24 max. I think if the Jets might pick him up with their second pick because they're going to need a running back too to run their system. So I just don't think the 49ers could give up enough to be able to move high enough up. But if they see him drop, to the end of the first round, I think they should jump up. I just really don't see that happening.
Yeah, I was going over some numbers, looking at some prop bets, and Najee Harris right now, one of the lines I saw was him being drafted after 32.5. So is he going to be a first-round pick or not? And if he's not a first-round pick, you double your money, whatever you put down. With that being said, the 49ers, they do a lot of trading back into the first round or trading up towards the tail end of the first round. They did it last year for Brandon Ayuk. They did it in 2017 for Reuben Foster. Of course, this specific year, draft capital wise, it's a lot different. And if you trade your second, third, and fourth round pick in this year's draft to get in between the 30 and 32 range, and I believe that's Buffalo, Kansas City, and Tampa Bay, you still don't have enough points as far as the draft value chart goes. So you still can't do it. You'd have to give up more than your second, third, and fourth round pick. And at that point, you're like, okay, this is kind of steep to get Najee Harris, but I would love to do that because he is that bell cow. And I think Raheem Mostert, going back to his 2019 role where he's used sparingly, and if Jeff Wilson Jr. would be a nice additional change of pace back, a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield, I would really like to trade up for Najee Harris. You just can't do it in the first round. Ideally, you could because you get that fifth year of control. But if he starts falling into the 36, 37, 38 range after the first couple picks in the second round, I would be a huge advocate for the 49ers getting him because I don't think you can get a more impactful player in the second round than Najee Harris. He's going to be an every down back in the NFL.
I mean, you guys made great points. I'm going to go on the other. I'm going to argue against it. I mean, I think he'd be great, but I do think the Niners have a bigger need at wide receiver. As strange as it sounds, they're a run-first team. They're a 2 wide receiver team. They have their 2 starters, but they really do play with 3 wide receivers about half the time. And that number 3 receiver is as much as part of the offense as Kyle Juszczyk, if not more. I mean, Kendrick Bourne the last 3 years played about 50% of the snaps. And the thing about the Niners starters is Debo, you never know how much he's going to play. So that number 3 guy could be a starter. I think if they could get Kadarius Toney in round 2, he would be a real big impact. I mean, he would be their number 3 receiver. He would have the size to start if Debo Samuel went down. He could do a lot of the stuff that Debo and Ayuk do. He would make a big impact. Najee's excellent too. Najee might be better than Kadarius Toney, but they're both really good. And the Niners do have success with a running back by committee. If they have to keep with it, they could get a good running back on day 3 or even after. So Toney is the way I think. But I don't even know if he'll be there at 43. He might be late first round too. I don't know.
Yeah, but Kadarius Toney also has that special team value. He's an electric returner. So yeah, that was my draft crush. Once we get into that, you stole some of my thunder there, Grant.
Oh, sorry. I take it back. Speaking of which, let's do it right now. Who are your draft crushes? Nick, go first. Surprise us.
Oh, my! I have 3 of them because, of course, this time of year, people could just go on and on and on with their draft crushes. I have Kadarius Toney. I love the wide receiver, running back hybrid guys that can play that Debo Samuel role. I think finding a second guy who can play in that Debo Samuel guy who can get jet sweeps and so on, catch the ball around the line of scrimmage and do something with it is very important. I think it's a huge need for the 49ers because, like Grant just touched on, Samuel has a lengthy injury history. So getting another Debo Samuel type playmaker is really important because it's such an important piece of the offense. And every time I talk about Debo Samuel and how important he is catching the ball around the line of scrimmage or lining up in the background, I go back to the 2019 season when he was huge he had a rushing touchdown against the Rams, had that touchdown against the Seahawks week 17 where he spun. He was electric getting the ball around the backfield in the playoffs. So I feel like getting a second Debo Samuel is important. I like Kadarius Toney, and I also like Demetric Felton, the running back wide receiver hybrid out of UCLA. So those are my 2 wide receiver crushes. And I also like Quinn Miners, the center. I like him a lot too. And I think the 49ers do need to address interior offensive line. I want to get a long-term right guard in this draft because Dan Brunskill may be that guy, but it seems just ever since Shanahan took over at right guard, there's just a new body there year after year. So finding a long-term solution there. Addressing interior of the offensive line with Quinn Miners.
Geez, I would hate to be around Nick during Valentine's Day in elementary school. He took all the crushes, but I'm gonna go with Javon Holland out of Oregon. Obviously, Bay Area guy, went to high school with Grant, so that already gives some
we
cool
weren't there
points.
at the exact same time, but we are both Dragons.
Right, exactly. You guys both share the same yearbook. Anyway, so I really like him because of his versatility and his confidence. So like I said with Grant earlier this week, he reminds me a lot of what Jimmy Ward, the impact he makes with the 49ers as far as his ability to obviously play safety as well as move into the slot corner position. I think his utility of being able to play both and having experience playing both is really could be important to any team that ends up drafting him, as well as he just has that swagger and that confidence that I think brings that edge to a defense. So he's somebody I've really been eyeing. I think he'd be a great pick in the second round for the 49ers. I really hope that, he ends up there. I think he'd be a great asset to the team.
So this is what I'm writing on. So I have a lot of names here because I kind of went position group by position group. But Javon Holland is definitely one of them. He did go to Grant's high school. He did go to my college, University of Oregon. So I am quite familiar with what he does. And not only what Suneil said, where he's versatile and can bounce around the defense, but he's also a really good punt returner. And I know the 49ers need that would help out their special teams a lot. And he knows how to intercept the football. And I think the 49ers have been missing that for a couple years now outside of Richard Sherman. They don't really have that ball hawk. And so that would help. And then, as Nick was saying, Quinn Miners is another guy I love because, one, he's a guard center. He can play right guard this year. He plays through the whistle, and he'll add toughness to that right side, which the right side desperately needs next to Mike McGlinchey, and maybe that will help him out this year if he has a bruiser right next to him. And then Miners is projected to be a center eventually, and that timeline fits with what Alex Mack is right now. And when Alex Mack retires, Quinn Miners will be able to slide over there. And my other guys are Paulson Adebo, the Stanford corner. I love, and I think he can slide in when Jason Barrett's contract is up, or Emmanuel Mosley if they move on after a year. That athleticism, once he gets more familiar with NFL defense, I think he'd be a good corner. And to fill your slot wide receiver, Grant, is Jalen Darden. He's a versatile weapon, and he runs a 4.46, and he can really do anything on the football field. He's 5'8", but that works in Kyle's offense, in my opinion, based off of Trent Taylor being a slot receiver in this offense. It's basically a faster, better Trent Taylor, I'd say, with Jalen Darden. And my final one's Jarrett Patterson, the Buffalo running back. And if you miss out on Najee Harris in the first or second round, you can get a 5'7", 197-pound running back that you're incapable of tackling him with your arms. You have to swarm tackle him essentially, and that'd be a good 5th or 6th round pick in my opinion.
All right, well, you guys have a great list. I'm going to stick with quarterbacks because that's what I've been focused on this year. And I know everyone expects the Niners to take a quarterback at number 3, and they probably will, but I'm still interested in the day 3 guys. To me, there's 2 that are very interesting. I mean, day 3, talking round 4 and on. If Davis Mills is available at round 4 or late round 3, that guy is interesting. I mean, he played at Stanford. There's no one really at Stanford. His numbers aren't great, but he didn't play that much less than Mac Jones did. And watch Davis Mills and compare him to Mac Jones. Mills is bigger. He's more mobile. His arm is stronger. If he had played at Alabama, what would we be talking about him right now? And if Mac Jones had played at Stanford, would anyone know his name, or would he just be McCorkle? I don't know. So Davis Mills is very interesting. And then there's Jamie Newman. I mean, people look at him as like, oh, he's just an athlete, or he's not that. Like, compare him to Trey Lance. He's 6'3", 235. He's a hell of an athlete. He actually played like Division I football. He's got a much bigger resume. I'm not saying he's better than Trey Lance, but if everyone loves Trey Lance, you might have a little love for Jamie Newman too. So those are my draft questions.
And something that's interesting about that, the 49ers have 9 draft picks right now. I don't see them using all 9 of those draft picks. I'm sure there's going to be some shuffling through the 7 rounds. But, I mean, Kyle Shanahan was offensive coordinator when they drafted both RG3 and Kirk Cousins, right? So I wouldn't completely rule it out that they don't draft the quarterback on day 3 after they take their quarterback 3rd overall, if that's what goes down.
Great point. Absolutely. He's done it before. Why wouldn't he do it again? All right, let's switch gears entirely. World's coming back. We're getting our vaccinations. It's starting to feel more and more like before the pandemic, but it's not over. And the NFLPA has recently advised players not to go to the voluntary spring workouts. That's OTAs, minicamp. It's supposed to be voluntary, although minicamp is mandatory. But anyway, OTAs, that kind of stuff. It's basically we're in the same spot we were last year. And my question to you is, for a team that's coming off a 6-10 season, a team that might want to have a quarterback competition or a brand new starting quarterback, what impact does this have potentially on the 49ers 2021 season?
Go ahead, Maverick.
Well, I know Tampa Bay didn't do their voluntary workouts last year, and that worked out well for them. Obviously, their new quarterback is a little more experienced than whoever the 49ers are going to start at quarterback, but they were totally fine with no, and they're one of the teams that have already opted out, I think, in favor of not doing voluntary spring workouts. So some teams are doing that, and I think it'll be a little rocky for a team that's going with a rookie quarterback, but there's preseason this year, so they're already going to be, I think, at a better spot week 1 than they were last season.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there being a preseason kind of de facto helps as far as getting reps to whomever the rookie quarterback is. You know, my biggest issue or fear, I guess, with no OTAs and things of that nature is just, once again, like the health. You know, I just want to make sure everybody's coming into camp healthy so that, you know, people could start the beginning of the season healthy as well. And, you know, obviously things went off the rail health-wise for the 49ers, you know, in the first, 4 to 6 games of the season. And I think a lot of that had to do with just people not getting the same type of work in the preseason and, camps and stuff like that. So as long as they can still figure out a way to keep everybody healthy and maybe ease people in through preseason and even, have some pitch count for some of the guys coming off injuries early in the season, I think that it won't make that big of a difference.
Yeah, I have a very indifferent stance on this, and I feel like both Maverick and Suneil did a great job of laying out the pros and cons as to why I'm very balanced on this issue, because there are a lot of pros and there are a lot of cons. The con being, of course, the 49ers had a very tough time staying healthy last year, and you do want your players out there working out and getting into football shape. But then at the same time, it's like, well, maybe less time on the football field is better in the long run as far as avoiding injuries, because, we see players like Jalen Hurd and Deebo Samuel last year. Deebo Samuel got hurt when they were in Nashville, if I remember correctly. And then Jalen Hurd just tore his ACL running routes or whatever he was doing. So I definitely see the pros and cons on both sides of the issue. And I was reading the statement from the NFLPA, and they mentioned something that they feel like having the same offseason rules in place this year as last year is going to help a full 17-game season take place. And I was kind of thinking about that, like, well, I don't see how that really helps a 17-game season go through its entire course, because we're looking at spring and summer activities, and the football season doesn't take place until the fall going into the winter. But yeah, definitely see both sides of this issue, both sides, and I just have an indifferent take.
It doesn't help a young quarterback who lacks experience. It's not going to help Trey Lance or Mac Jones. I don't think it helps the offensive line. I mean, I think I was really hard on Mike McGlinchey last year. I singled him out. But all the offensive tackles other than Trent Williams looked underweight. I mean, Justin School, what was that? He looked like he regressed. I mean, I think it's tough for 300-pound men to remain 300 pounds, and the offensive line could really use some supervision. But then finally, I'm going to take this another one. So I don't know. I mean, it's not going to help the Niners. Maybe it won't hurt him. Justin Herbert did well. He had a lot of experience in college. I don't know. But the way I look at this is the NFLPA, it makes that they're trying to make it seem like they're protecting players and they have the players' best interest at heart. But I also feel like they have the veterans' best interest at heart. The people the players who work for the NFLPA are the vets, the guys in their 30s. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I would do it too, but naturally, like, all these things help vets and hurt young players. The 30-year-olds don't need OTAs. They don't need that. They already know the schemes and they've established themselves. The guys who need OTAs are the young guys, the guys who need development, and the guys who are going to be taking the veterans' job, the guys who are cheaper, younger, faster, all that stuff. And there's always been a little bit of a competition between the older, more expensive vets and the cheaper, younger players, especially since this rookie wage scale came in. So to me, it almost feels like collusion against the young guys. They need this time on the field, and these vets are like, no, it's not safe yet. Well, that's debatable. I don't know. That's the one way I look at it. I think it's like kind of a disservice to the 22-year-olds, the 23-year-olds in the league. What I'm saying.
Sure. Good point.
Anyway, that's fair.
Mark says, what if the Jags take Fields and the Jets take Wilson? Is Lawrence a slam dunk Kyle guy? Interesting question. Chris Sims had much more negative than positive to say about Trevor Lawrence. He's like, yeah, he's really good, but, he kind of has a long release. He's really tall. People, he's kind of skinny. He had a great team. Kyle isn't the kind – it seems like in the past he stayed away from spread offense quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence is a spread offense quarterback. I don't know. It would take a lot of guys to not take Trevor Lawrence. I mean, your fan base would hate you.
And I saw a stat that said that Trevor Lawrence had the least amount of under center snaps out of the top 5 quarterbacks.
It's a good question, Mark. I just feel like there'd be so much pressure from your fan base to take Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence started sliding in the draft, everyone's head would explode for good reason, because he's great. I think he's great. Have
you seen that movie Draft Day where the quarterback's supposed to go 1 and then he slides, and like it's a cheesy movie, but then they trade their own draft picks back to go get him or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, well, you should watch it.
I'll definitely watch it.
You need to play a drinking game or something with the most unrealistic trades, but that could happen.
That's funny. Kajan says, is Lance perfect for Kyle's ego? Very raw, mold him how he wants, gets all the credit for his success. He is raw.
Yeah.
Possible.
I'm anti-Kyle Shanahan in this ego narrative that Grant has put out in the ozone. Like, that is not any. I don't think there's any truth to that as far as Kyle Shanahan has an ego, and that's why he picks players and treats players certain ways. I think I'm off that bandwagon.
Travis Etienne, playmaker, fast, can catch too. Yeah, that's another reason. Like if you want to take a running back in round 2, you don't necessarily have to trade up. There could be 3 or 4 guys you can wait on and take the best one.
Etienne's going first round.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
The thing about Lance and Kyle's ego, I mean, I guess the idea would be like he would be your Taysom Hill project. If you really felt confident in your ability to develop a quarterback, that would be one, because I think some people are going to look at him and be like, you know what, that's a little too ambitious for us. So maybe, although I still think Kyle gets a kick out of the idea of having a guy who's a total non-athlete at quarterback. Maybe he would like, maybe one day he'll take one, but I just think he's like, look at how great my scheme is. I don't even need an athlete. Like I could play. I could do this. The slander. I'm sorry. I take it back. Suneil, I'm sorry. I take it back. All right. This is halftime. Let's go into part 2 of the show. The first part was very serious.
Very serious
discussion. This is going to be a little bit more lighthearted. It's just I like comparisons. I know you're not supposed to make them, but I like them. When you make these, draft comparison, you start digging into players. One of the questions I eventually get to is, okay, who's he remind me of? If I think he's good, then what is the precedent here? Who is someone like him who's been good before? I don't know how useful of an exercise is, but I like it, and it's my show.
Yeah,
so we're gonna
fun.
Do it. All right, so let's start with Mac Jones. In your opinion, who is the NFL comparison for Mac Jones? Who wants to start off this exciting topic?
I'll go ahead and start. I don't think I've started yet. So I'm not going based off of throwing motion, but what I'm going off of is going to be based off of not necessarily the best athlete, but pretty good at anticipation and accuracy with the ball. So I'm going to go with the quarterback that I watched a lot, and that is going to be Phillip Rivers. And I think that Mac Jones and Phillip Rivers are similar in the sense that they're more need to have a clean pocket to be able to be successful. They're not going to be able to really scramble away from too much pressure. So unless they have a really good offensive line, they're not going to really be able to thrive. And they both have the same, I think, ability as far as anticipation and accuracy with the ball. Obviously, Phillip Rivers had that weird shot put style throwing motion, which Mac Jones doesn't have. But I think like overall game, and as far as if Mac Jones could turn into a Phillip Rivers type player, I think that would be, a really high ceiling for him. But I see just the inathletic ability and need for like a really clean pocket for them to be successful. I see that as like similar type quarterbacks.
Who's next?
I can go with Mac Jones. I'm not a quarterback guru by any means of the word, but what I think of is I would
yes, you are. Shut up. Don't be so modest.
Yeah, I think of Andy Dalton when I see Mac Jones.
That's fair. That's interesting. That's
and
fair.
It's also the amount of excitement I had when Greg suggested Andy Dalton as a free agent signing. I was not thrilled about that. Andy Dalton has led his team to the playoffs a couple times. So there's not saying that there's not a workable quarterback there. I think Mac Jones can be a little better than Andy Dalton even. And then I'd say his floor is Andy Dalton's former backup, A.J. McCarron, who's another Alabama quarterback. And I think that's the concern with Mac Jones is, did he just succeed because he had all these great weapons? Right. And that was a concern with A.J. McCarron as well, who also won, obviously a lot more experience, but won a lot of games at Alabama with a lot of good talent. And that I just see Andy Dalton with Mac Jones. And if that's who they pick at 3, I still think the 49ers can win games with Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm. Anytime you get a chance to trade 3 first-round picks for Andy Dalton, you got to do it. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I struggle with making comparisons, and I've seen all the it's hard, and
we're not going to do it. It's not scientific. We're not going to hold you.
I want to play along with a couple of the answers that Maverick and Suneil came, because I haven't heard the Phillip Rivers comparison yet. I've seen a lot of the generic ones, like he's a Kirk Cousins, or someone called it, was it Ryan Clark? I forget which analyst said it, called him the reincarnated Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. So I want to bounce back off, go back to what Suneil said, drawing that Phillip Rivers comparison. And again, this is the first time I've heard Mac Jones by anybody compare him to Phillip Rivers. If Mac Jones was to have a Phillip Rivers type career, and again, he wasn't on a lot of great teams, is that worthy of a 3rd overall pick? I'm kind of tilting this to go discussion based here because I don't have my own comparison for Mac Jones.
Okay, it's a tough one. Let me do my best. I think the Andy Dalton one is pretty close. I see what you're saying with Phillip Rivers because the accuracy, the anticipation, and he doesn't have a strong arm. Phillip Rivers is 6'5", though. So Phillip Rivers is a big, big boy.
Yeah.
Mac's a little smaller. He's a little more mobile. And I like him, but I just like him more than Tua. And I think Tua is going to be a fringe backup his whole career. And I think that Mac could be kind of like, Ryan Fitzpatrick, like the kind of guy who can have some stretches where it's like, this guy is who does he think he is? I mean, the anticipation, the moxie, the way he throws downfield, like, wow, he really is a gunslinger. And then he has these weeks where he's like, dude, you threw 4 picks today. What happened, Ryan? Now, he didn't have this at Alabama, but no one really plays bad at Alabama. Everyone plays. It's easy. I mean, I think in the NFL, the way Mac plays, unless he's Drew Brees, and I see more of Ryan Fitzpatrick, which is, that's a 20-year career. That's something respectable, but he's always going to be kind of disappointing the team that paid him and then competing with someone else and then taking someone else's job and playing well for stretches. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay, let's move on.
The forever bridge quarterback.
The forever bridge quarterback. Not exactly who you want to trade up for. All right, let's do Trey Lance. NFL comp for Trey Lance.
Oh, man.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, no. So with Trey Lance, I was really thinking of quarterbacks who put up good numbers, who were big, were able to run the football. And Dante Culpepper came to mind, the good version of Dante Culpepper. And I was looking into that a little bit, but I can't really compare either Trey Lance or Justin Fields to Dante Culpepper because, I was super young. But I remember him being a big athletic quarterback, guy who could make throws all over the field. Of course, he benefited from having Randy Moss on his team, but he led the league in passing touchdowns. He led the league in passing yards on 2 different seasons. 1 year where he led the league in touchdowns, 1 year where he led the league in passing yards. And he had seasons where he had 650 rushing yards. And that's kind of where I see Trey Lance and Justin Fields both at, as guys who can consistently rush for 600 yards each season and then put up these monster numbers throwing the football, especially with Kyle Shanahan, both passing yards and touchdowns.
Yeah, so for Trey Lance, I actually think he's going to be a really, really good player. I see him his floor is, Cam Newton, which obviously was, a star in the NFL, took a team to a Super Bowl, won an MVP. But I think, if he is in the right system with the right type of coaching scheme, I see him as, somebody that could be a Josh Allen like Buffalo and in the next 2-3 years, be somebody who at his peak could be like Josh Allen, somebody that's, the next generation of great quarterbacks kind of thing. But I think it really all depends on where he goes, who his coach is, how good they are at developing, because there's a big difference being developed in Buffalo under that tutelage and, being developed in Chicago like Mitch Trubisky was. It could go either way depending on who he ends up falling to.
Great point. People don't talk about that enough.
I think Trey Lance has the MVP Cam potential, like that Cam Newton, not the current Cam Newton or what Josh Allen is now, but inexperienced version of him. I think he'll take 2 years to get to the point where Cam was his rookie year. And then I think his floor, I do like Trey Lance. I just don't think the Niners are going to go after him. I think they're going Fields or Wilson or whoever, but and then I'd say my floor is that one good year of Terrell Pryor, if you remember that. Before everyone, because I was a big Terrell Pryor guy when he became the starting quarterback.
That's a good point.
Before he became a wide receiver, Terrell Pryor at quarterback, I thought had a couple good games and a couple bad games, and I think that's what Trey Lance would be at the start. But if he gets to a team that believes in him and works with his rookie mistakes or his first year starting mistakes, I think a team will reap those benefits.
I'm swayed by Maverick. I think the Terrell Pryor floor is dead on. I was going to say Taysom Hill, but Terrell Pryor was a monster athlete.
That run against the Steelers.
Athlete. He just wasn't the most natural thrower, and there's nothing you can really do about that. And I don't know if Trey Lance is. We'll see. I think I agree that his ceiling is Cam Newton. I mean, people say Cam, think kind of low of Cam Newton now. Remember in college, the dude won the national championship and the Heisman at Auburn. Now, Trey Lance won the national championship in 1AA football and has a comparable I mean, they're similar because 1 year starting basically. Cam had JUCO. That's the difference. But they both ran about as much as they threw. They both were almost like glorified running backs. But Cam worked out. Cam's had a long career. If Trey Lance could do that, that would be good, I would imagine. Gold Rush says Niners need to find a way to get back to the 50s to get Diami Brown and Elijah Molden. Molden is the best slot cornerback in the draft. My comp is K1. Diami Brown went to North Carolina. Burner gets down the field. Yeah, sounds good. Good suggestions. I will write these in a postcard, and I will send them to John Lynch. I will send them to Joan and payroll. I will send them up the proper channels. Thank you very much, Gold Rush. I appreciate it. Let's move on to Justin Fields. What is your pro comp for Justin Fields?
This is where I have prime Colin Kaepernick, the Super Bowl run. I think Justin Fields has a lot of running potential. And then I also have taller Kyler Murray because I think Justin Fields, the way he can throw on the run and just throw on a snap like Kyler Murray throws like a shortstop every time he's out of the pocket. I think Justin Fields can do that. And in Shanahan's system where he'll be throwing those drag routes that he's familiar with in Ohio State, I think that will help him to start off. And I think he can get to that first year starting Colin Kaepernick, taller Kyler Murray role. And I know a lot of people think Cam Newton, but I think Cam Newton is more of a tight end body quarterback like Trey Lance is.
Yep.
And I think Justin Fields is more Kaepernick, Kyler Murray, in my opinion. Taller than Kyler Murray, but.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, I was just saying.
Bad, I cut you off.
I'm done.
All right, my bad.
Yeah, I'd have to disagree with Mav. I think that Justin Fields is way more accurate than both of the quarterbacks that he mentioned, and so I think that's a big difference. I would say probably floor would be Dak Prescott, and if Justin Fields could fix his just like pocket awareness, meaning like just hold up, not like run the minute that there's any type of like pressure in there. I think that his ceiling is going to be Deshaun Watson. Like, I think he's really accurate. He's obviously has the size to play quarterback. He's a freak athlete, but he just needs to fix his feet in the pocket. And if he does that, I think we're looking at another Deshaun Watson, who was a spread offense type quarterback coming out of Clemson, but was developed well under Bill O'Brien and turned into that all around quarterback that obviously any team would be looking for.
Yeah, those are all great comparisons, and I kind of like where Maverick was going out with the Colin Kaepernick, the taller Kyler Murray. I think he's physically tougher. To the player that I'm going to draw this comparison to again, Dante Culpepper. And if you look at the numbers that he put up, Justin Fields is a little smaller than Dante Culpepper. He had that tight end body that Maverick was talking about, the 6'4", 250, 260. Justin Fields is a little bit smaller. But looking at Culpepper and what he did when he was playing at the highest level and just the numbers that he put up and how physical he was running the football, he wasn't able to stay healthy. Durability wasn't necessarily Culpepper's strong suit. He only played 3 seasons with the Vikings with 16 starts. But when he was able to accumulate 16 start seasons, he was putting up massive numbers. So I like that comparison for Fields, kind of a combination of Culpepper's running ability. And when you look at Kaepernick and Kyler Murray, these are not physical guys that are going to try to run you over. Like we've seen players like Trevor Lawrence do in college, Justin Fields did in college. They're just not going to run out of bounds. Like, they want that contact. They're physical. And that's how Culpepper was. I'm just going back and looking at some highlights of him today. So I see a lot of different players molded into Justin Fields that you can draw comparisons from. I like the Deshaun Watson. I think Justin Fields is going to be a tremendous quarterback. I really, really do.
Going back to Trey Lance real quick, people compare him to Josh Allen. I see the comparison as runners. Like, Josh Allen runs people over. That's what I like about him. I mean, you don't have to worry about Josh Allen scrambling because you got to worry about the person who's tackling him. He's that big. The thing about comparing anyone to Josh Allen is Josh Allen has the strongest arm I've ever seen. So that's kind of a tough comparison. I don't really see that from Trey Lance, although he does have a very strong arm. Back to Justin Fields. Justin Fields isn't as big as Trey Lance. Justin Fields isn't as big as Josh Allen. I don't know that he's going to be running people over in the NFL, although he is built. I mean, he's a good, thick athlete. I hate to be negative here. And this guy I'm going to compare him to had a great career until he got hurt, which was quick. RG3 RG3 was about 6'3", about 222, ran so fast, ran more than Justin Fields did in college. I think if Justin Fields is going to succeed, he's going to have to play a lot like how RG3 played. And that's how Colin Kaepernick played. But Colin Kaepernick was 6'4", 235 at his best. Fields a little smaller, and he's a little faster. I think he's got that 4.4 speed that RG3 had. RG3 was really good. His knee gave out. It was kind of a freak injury, and he was never the same. I'm not saying it's going to happen to Justin Fields. Maitland Eagle is saying Lance equals Steve McNair. Perhaps. Steve McNair was kind of an interesting player. He played at an historically black college, right?
Oh, I don't know about college yet.
He did. He played at a very small school. Hell of a player, first round pick. Anyway, RG3.
I think he's a lot more mobile than McNair was. But McNair had a great career. That would be a solid quarterback if you got him. But I all this Justin Fields, like all you guys focused on was his running ability, and I think that once again that's like slander against Justin Fields. Hold on.
He is a really accurate passer. His senior year at Baylor completed 72% of his throws, averaged 10.7 yards per attempt through 37 touchdown passes, and won the Heisman. I mean, it's not really like a slap in the face to compare to RG.
True, but what I'm saying is like I think when people when people talk about Fields, they talk more about his mobility, like he's going to be a run-first quarterback. But I think he wants to be a pass-first quarterback. He's super accurate. Like when people talk about his accuracy, it wasn't just 1 year. Both years he was a starter, he was near the 70% accuracy rate, and he was throwing for a good amount of touchdowns and stuff like that as well. So obviously it's Ohio State, but still, I think we should give him more credit as a pass first option than just a guy that's going to be running around everywhere.
So I'll add on that. I think a reason why a lot of people, myself included, really emphasize the mobility of Justin Fields is because of all the Mac Jones smokescreen. And you have to bring it up as to why Justin Fields makes more sense is because he has so much more to offer opposed to Mac Jones that people do emphasize quite a bit his ability to make plays outside the pocket on the run and be that running quarterback that can pick up a lot of yards. But I definitely agree. He's a solid passer within the pocket as well.
He is a solid passer in the pocket. I just think for him to have the most success possible and reach his full potential, he's going to have to run more than he did at Ohio State. Because it's something he does so well. He runs a 4.4. You got to bring that out. You can't just try to be Peyton Manning. It's not who you are.
The one thing with the throwing is that's what I was touching on with Kyler Murray is his ability to just throw on the run and do those cross-body throws that Kaepernick also did in his career, that cross-field throw to Frank Gore. And I think Justin Fields throwing to Chris Olave so many times last year showed that he can do that. And that's my favorite trait in Justin Fields is being able to throw cross-body runs, use those legs and throw. And that's what I like about him. And that's at least where I got my Kaepernick and taller Kyler Murray comparison.
Jerry, we're going to come back to this question. It's a good one, but I want to finish up our little comparison thing and come back. It's a good one to end on. I like it, Jerry. Hang with us. Okay. Zach Wilson. NFL comp for Zach Wilson. Who wants to start?
Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. Well, I just have this weird gut feeling with Zach. I can't explain it. It's not that I'm sold that he's going to be a bust, but I feel like the probability of him being a bust is higher than both Lance and Fields. I really can't explain what it was. And I was thinking about the floor I was going to provide for his. I think the worst case scenario for Zach Wilson, which I don't know, a slightly better version of Johnny Manziel.
I knew you were going to say that. That's fair.
Okay.
Of course, we don't think that Zach Wilson has substance abuse issues, but it's even if Johnny didn't. Yeah, Johnny had his own issues on the field. He wasn't that good.
It's like, is his game for sure going to translate? They're smaller quarterbacks. Manziel was a lot smaller than Zach Wilson. His combine measurements, he was under 6 feet tall. But, it's just the playing style with the kind of reckless abandon. I would not be surprised if Zach Wilson is the bust in this draft, which is why I prefer Trey Lance at 3 if both Lawrence and Fields go 1 and 2. If Fields goes second to the Jets, I would prefer Lance. I just feel better about him in the long haul. So my floor comparison for Zach Wilson is a slightly better Johnny Manziel, who'll have a better career because Manziel flamed out quick because of the off-field issues. Oh, tongue-tied there. But with yes, you don't have to worry about that with Zach Wilson. At least from the best of my knowledge, you don't have to worry about that. So he'll have a longer career in the NFL to try to turn things around. But I really think his floor is in that Manziel range. His ceiling, if things work out, poor man Steve Young, a mobile quarterback who can make plays all over the field, make those jaw-dropping throws. That's where I'm at with Zach Wilson. But I do give him the highest bust probability in this year's draft out of the top 5 picks. Top 5 quarterbacks.
So what I'm going to say might sound like it's a dig at Zach Wilson, but it's not meant to be a dig. So the comparison that I'm going to make is I think he's a more athletic Josh Rosen. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the things that was talked about Josh Rosen is similar to Zach Wilson. So they both came from pretty well-off families. I think Zach Wilson's uncle owns JetBlue or something like that. Yeah. They both tend to be the more cerebral person in the room, the type of person that needs to understand everything and will challenge people in the quarterback room and so on and so forth. But I don't think he's going to be what Josh Rosen is, because I think he's going to go to if he goes to the Niners, he will be developed a lot better than Josh Rosen was. So I think his floor is going to be a Josh Rosen, and the same type of things were said about Aaron Rodgers as well. So I think like those are the two players that I feel like he's going to be somewhere in between. I think he's going to be better than Josh Rosen because he's going to be put in a situation where he's developed better, especially if he's with Shanahan. Shanahan's going to give him a lot to where he's mentally challenged to the point where, he'll be excited about the playbook, excited about running those plays all the time. And then, the same thing with Aaron Rodgers, as far as he has that ability to throw on the run. He has that ability to make off-base plays. So I think that he's going to be a really good player. Once again, depending on where he goes. If he falls to the 49ers, I think it'd be an excellent pick for the Niners.
My comparisons, I think a lot of people would say Wilson's peak is Aaron Rodgers, and I can totally see that. I also see even a taller Russell Wilson. And the other thing I see is a shorter Carson Wentz, that MVP caliber season he had before Carson Wentz got injured. I see that in Zach Wilson a lot, just having that arm, that playmaking ability. Remember, Carson Wentz was a very good runner before that ACL injury, and that's even how he hurt his leg, was diving into the end zone against the Rams, I believe. And I see that in Zach Wilson. And I'd say even if he busts out, I still think he would be a starting quarterback for a few years and get a couple chances, because I think the tools are all there. Where, as we've seen Josh Rosen getting a lot of chances, Sam Darnold getting another chance with Carolina, I think Zach Wilson will get those if he does not have a great start to his career, because he has those tools to really succeed.
When I watch Zach Wilson, I see a guy scrambler, a guy who's going to run more than people give him than expect. I see Kyler Murray. He's not as athletic as Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was a top 10 pick in baseball too. He's got a cannon. Zach Wilson doesn't have that. I think Kyler Murray runs a 4.3. Probably Zach Wilson runs a 4.5, but he runs a nice 4.5, I would imagine. And I think he's going to be the kind of guy averaging 30, 40, 50 rushing yards a game, and someone that's a big part of his game. My question with him is, how long are you going to last playing like that? Kyler Murray has lasted so far, but he's quicker than Zach Wilson, and he did get hurt last year. Also, think with Kyler Murray, he's not that great of a quarterback. Hell of a player, playmaker, hell of a runner, but look at his passing numbers. They're okay. They're not bad. He's young. They can improve. Kyler Murray. That's my comparison.
Zach Wilson's a lot taller, so I think he'll be more prone to throw in the pocket. I think Kyler Murray has an issue when the pocket trying to collapse. He can't see over the lineman, so that makes him run more than, I think Zach Wilson will have to.
The thing about Zach Wilson, what I noticed with him is he doesn't want to be in the pocket. He drops way deep to give himself space, and then when people come, he's left, right. He just wants to have a lot of space around him, and he's good at creating it. Maybe that'll be different in the NFL. I don't know. Jerry, let's get to these questions. Jerry's a good one. People say that the Niners didn't have to move to 3 to get Jones. Was he going to be available at 12? What do you guys think?
I think all 5 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10. So if they were going to wait till 12, then no, that he wouldn't have been there. I don't think they necessarily had to go to 3, but if that's the only place they could really trade up, then yeah, possibly. But I just don't see it being, or I think it's going to be either Mac Jones or Justin Fields. So I just hope it's Justin Fields.
Yeah, I think Grant and I broke this down earlier this week. I think that 3 was more just the only option that they had to move up to guarantee that they'd get one of the top 4 quarterbacks. I don't necessarily think that it has anything to do with Mac Jones. Like, I think Mac Jones isn't coming from the 49ers. I think Mac Jones is just that stereotype. The stereotype. I'm tongue tied right now too. That stereotype of Shanahan liking the Kirk Cousins type player. I don't think it came from anything other than that, because you're starting to see the same people that are like, book it, Mac Jones is like coming off of that same argument now too. I think 3 was just because they tried to go up to 6. The Eagles were looking at Zach Wilson, Mac Jones as well, trying to get up to pick that. When the Eagles weren't in play, then they went up to Miami. Miami gave them the pick, and that's why the Eagles ended up, going out of 6 to go back to 12. So, yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the player. I think they just wanted the best chance to get one of the top 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree with the first part of this question that we have here, that people say the 49ers didn't have to move up to 3 to get Jones. Absolutely, they didn't have to move up to 3 to get Jones. I agree with Maverick. I see all 5 quarterbacks going inside of the top 10 because there's a lot of teams who need quarterbacks for various reasons. Was he going to be available at 12? Maybe early in the draft process, but as we're getting closer, 2 weeks away from the draft, I definitely don't think there's going to be any of the top 5 guys there at 12. And if the 49ers wanted Mac Jones, I think that they would have made a draft day trade and reevaluate the board on draft day, see who's available, who's not, where they need to move up to get Jones. I don't buy it for a second that they made that huge jump from 12 to 3 for Mac Jones. And if they wanted him, they could have made a much smaller jump from 12 to 7, 12 to 8, saved a lot of draft capital while still getting Jones if that's who they were honing in on.
Yeah, it's baffling if they made that entire move up for Jones, because I do think that it's looking like he probably would have been there at 12. I mean, there was a report that his floor was 8 to the Panthers, and then the Panthers traded a 2nd-round pick for Sam Darnold, who's a more physically gifted prospect than Mac Jones and only a year older. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I think that might have been bad information. I think Mac Jones probably would have been available at 12, which, again, gives me not hope, because I don't care. I'm not a Niner fan, but it just makes me feel like the Niners aren't getting Mac Jones. Like, there's no way you did that, because yeah, I think he probably would have been available at 12. Sean says, Grant, quit lying. You like going against the grain. That's true. Mav, back with the boys. Yes, he is. Don't you think the Niners would dominate with Fields now? One read and run. I mean, you guys all like Fields, don't you?
Yep.
Yes.
I love him.
Only thing is that I feel like Kyle would have to make changes to his offense, which he's made before. I mean, he did it for RG3. Only thing is, the backup is Nate Sudfeld. Do they play on the same team? I mean, Kirk Cousins and RG3 did, so maybe it's just, I don't know.
Nate Sudfeld was also the backup to Wentz and Jalen Hurts.
True.
So I mean, like, he played on teams with more mobile quarterbacks ahead of him.
Words have been kicking y'all butts today. Yeah, we're a little tongue-tied today. Raymond says, Grant, please explain to those that aren't familiar with why Kyle doubles down on mistakes. No ego. Why does Kyle double down on mistakes? Because Kyle's never wrong. Kyle is one of these guys who's the smartest guy in the room. And the thing about Kyle is he probably is. But he also wants to prove it, and I think he kind of has a chip on his shoulder. He's been in the league since he was young. And I think a lot of people look at him as like, why are you here? You're just here because you're Mike Shanahan's son. And he was like, no, I'm actually smarter than you. No, I'm actually better at this than you. And I think, he's probably made a career out of that. He's made $100 million out of that. And he needs to dial it back a little bit, because his ego, CJ Beathard, Kirk Cousins, in the past, it's gotten him in trouble. But he's
time out. What are these double down on these mistakes? I feel like we're just saying things and with no evidence to back it up.
I mean, Dante Pettis was on the team 3 years too long. Trent Taylor was on the team 3 years too long. CJ Beathard was on the team 3 years too long. I mean,
wait, first of all of those people, Dante Pettis had a really good rookie season, and then he got injured. So you can't cut him when he's injured. You still got to be like, okay, there was promise there. And then by year 3, he cut him. He traded him, or he cut him by year 3.
How about
he gave
this
him
of Kyle Shanahan doubling down on his mistakes, not running the ball in the second half of the first Super Bowl he lost, and then not running the ball in the second half of the Super Bowl he lost.
Look, he also lost to 2 of the greatest comeback quarterbacks of all time in both of those Super Bowls. So it's not like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady aren't like 2 guys that are like known for making offensive coordinators look stupid. So it is what it is. I think it's a narrative that could easily be made without, factual evidence behind it. I got you, Grant. I'm coming up here with no Kyle Shanahan slander.
Hey, look, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes are good. They're just not quite Kirk Cousins. All right, let's move. They're great. They're just not Kirk Cousins. I mean, look, Jerry says, what if they thought the Falcons wanted him also? That's the thing. I don't think the Falcons wanted Mac Jones. I don't. Now, I don't know. I just don't.
I think the Falcons want Trey Lance. I think they're interested in Trey Lance. And
now they're going to get him. Here's the way I look at it. I think the Falcons thought they were on the outside looking in. They're like, man, we got the 4th pick. And it's going to be probably, this. Look at it this way. They need to trade down. They have the worst defense in the league. It was going to be Lawrence, Wilson, Fields in some order. And the 4th pick isn't worth as much. Now, if the Niners take Mac Jones, Fields falls to the Falcons, they can trade down and get a ton of picks. I think it works out great for them. It works out. It's the best news they've ever heard.
I'd say it'd be interesting to me if the 49ers thought the Falcons were interested in Mac Jones, because just the way Arthur Smith ran his offense in Tennessee with Tannehill there is he likes a quarterback that is moving a lot outside the pocket, and and obviously Marcus Mariota before that, Tannehill succeeds with that. So to me, if I was projecting what the Falcons would go for, it'd be one of the 2 mobile guys. And also the way they restructured Matt Ryan's contract is he's pretty much going to be their quarterback in 2022 unless they find a way out of that. There's a lot of dead cap next year with that restructure.
Good point. Last one that we're out. Lawless Light says Kirk said Mac is a surgeon. Last time outside we need for Super Bowl win a quarterback, not a doctor. Your thoughts? I don't know what he's talking about.
Do you mean Kyle?
Who's Kirk?
Lawless Light. Who's Kirk? Captain Kirk?
Kirk Cousins.
Captain Kirk.
Kirk Cousins talked about Mac Jones. Hey, Lawless, I wish I understood, but I appreciate it. I mean,
we don't need a doctor. We do.
Let me try my best. Is Mac Jones a surgeon? I don't know. I mean, he executed Alabama's offense really well. Would Jimmy Garoppolo have struggled at Alabama? Would Nick Mullins have struggled? Would CJ
Kirk Herbstreit.
Okay. Mac is a surgeon. All right. Well, if Kyle takes him, that's why he's taking him, because he thinks he's smarter and more precise than Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, we'll see. I feel like every quarterback looks smart and precise at Alabama, but I don't know. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We've done this for an hour. It's a hell of a roundtable again. Every Wednesday, 5:30, the new time for the roundtable. We're going to do another one tomorrow with Jose and Jack around 3. See you then. Thanks, everyone, for watching and donating and all that stuff. Appreciate it. Take care.